get that I jumped from one girl to another girl really quick, but I mean, have you seen Alana?
And Chris, from your perspective, anything going into the show, whether it was communication, everyone talks on DM or whatever, whether it was with Alana or Jessenia or anyone that you were like, oh, anything, any of these DMs or anything could be a problem or be, an issue down the line for about to go on this show?
I didn't think I had anything that could potentially get me in trouble for anything. And so, yeah, I was completely shocked. I mean, you could see it on my face when I'm down there on the beach. I'm just sitting there stunned, like, we're really having this conversation right now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I get that I jumped from one girl to another girl really quick, but I mean, have you seen Alana? I mean, I just went kind of crazy in my head. And so for me, it was like, I was just like Twitter-pated from the first time we kissed on the show and everything like that. And from then on, I was like, all right, like this is the direction I'm going.
And how much of you were just thinking and hoping like this is, or to think now, like that's kind of the premise of the show to some degree. Do you think that it's
the premise of the show?
Is it fair though? How can anyone navigate it though if they're going to get it held against them? Like if that's the premise of the show, why do some people? Why were you misleading someone but somebody else wasn't?
I think the bottom line with everything and why it went the way it did was because one, I came in when no one was expecting me to, and everyone thought like all of their connections were safe. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's because we weren't really popular in the franchise, and if I had been like someone who walked in that was well known and everything, like no one would have spoken to me like that.
Right.
No one would have had an issue with Chris like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not here at all to talk poorly about anyone, mm-hmm. but similar things were being said about Brendan and Piper.
Right.
And like, I didn't really feel like anyone came for Brendan like they came for Chris. And I feel like it's because Brendan had friends there.
Yeah. No, that was a huge part of it, I think.
No, you had friends there.
Your friends weren't quite as vocal, maybe.
They weren't vocal. And I just think like Brendan went farther on his season. And there's like this weird thing within this franchise where like that dictates everyone's respect for one another is how far you went. And they use like night oneer as like a derogatory thing.
Bizarre.
So I think that that's really all it was that we were low-hanging fruit and easy to pick on.
For sure. And I mean, going into Paradise, I was and still am a nobody in the franchise. So it was...
You're not a nobody.
You're not a nobody.
But I think, I wasn't the popular kid. And I felt like I was in high school again. I was getting picked on by the big bullies who were really well known and knew that they had the supporters back home to back them up no matter what they said on the show or no matter what they did.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of, the tough part and the tough realization for me. And I just looked like a puppy with my tail between my legs. And there were so many things that I wanted to say and I wish I could have said or wish I would have. But I just, in that moment, I think for me, I just wanted to be the bigger man and not bring up things and not make it worse than it already was, mm-hmm. or potentially throw other people under the bus.
Yeah, is that what you were, when the tide kind of started to turn and you realized, oh boy, like this is turning into something and there's no way out of this necessarily, like no one's even going to listen to me. What do you remember thinking at that time? Were you just kind of like in disbelief? Were you upset? Were you like worried about how it was going to air? Were you not even thinking about that yet? Like what were you even thinking? Like when you're on the beach and the tide was turning and everyone was kind of just like coming for you guys, like you committed a crime.
So I really wasn't thinking about how it was going to air. I think for me, my main frustration was with one specific person who was coming at me during that argument, me being like, there's a lot of stuff I can say right now and I'm not like, and I was just like, kind of like sitting there like, are you serious? You're really doing this right now? Like, and I was sitting there thinking like, I was really frustrated. So, and it's hard for me. And there were things, like I said, there's things that I wanted to say and that I just didn't say in that moment. But I feel like at the end of the day, it was the better choice to not say what I wanted to.
Yeah. And Alana, they were like, does anyone care what I think? And they were like, no. Watching that back recently, I was like, wow, that was really messed up that they didn't even let you weigh in on something they were saying about you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people had differing opinions on that. There were a lot of people that were like, you should have been able to speak. But a lot of people were like, she shouldn't have gotten involved. Like, it wasn't her place. This was about Chris. And I'm just like, I think it just comes back to the whole not popular within the franchise thing. And I could have not been involved in the situation at all. But if I was a former Bachelorette standing there saying, do you want to know what I think? Everyone would have been like, yes, we would love to know what you think.
Right.
You know, it's just like, there's just discrepancies in respect for different people. So it was a really eye-opening experience. Most people suck. It taught me that. You know, people are never going to act how you expect them to.
And I, you know, the hard part for me watching it back was seeing people and then remembering people's silence, Alana. You should never silence a woman when she's trying to speak and trying to voice her opinion, or just at least say something. I mean, the fact of the matter is it did directly involve her.
Right.
And so the fact that they were speaking negatively about her and then not letting her speak, I mean, that's, in my mind, just, I can't, can I curse?
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. So. I mean, you don't have to name names, but I will, to remind the listeners that it was Grocery Store Joe was part of the Paradise Police. You had Riley, who was going wild. Do you have any resentment towards anyone who, you know, kind of was leading that charge that technically had nothing to do with your relationship, but was kind of running the beach? And I know you said you guys haven't heard from anyone. Do you hold grudges for that? Or are you like, whatever, they had power. It was a power struggle and they won.
Holding a grudge just hurts us. But I gave everyone like a couple weeks to apologize to me after it aired. And when it didn't, I just went ahead and blocked them everywhere. Cause it's like, the only control I have at this point is to like cut off their access to me to like be in control of the situation. And, you know, you forgive, but you don't forget. Like, I'll never have any of those people in my life in any capacity.
Yeah, that's fair.